something goes wrong, something he does, first thing she yells is, "You make me sick, you're just like your father." Hey, this is your Uncle Raulh here. I wanted to talk to you today about, I read Steve Harvey's book, and in the book, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man, he wrote in the book, if a man cannot have a relationship with his mother, he can't have a relationship with you. Or if a man cannot love his mother, he cannot love you as a woman. Ladies, I want you all to be careful when you're taking advice like this, because if you're talking to a man and he doesn't have a relationship with his mother, and you get up and walk away from him, you may be walking away from someone who has a legitimate reason on why they don't have a relationship with their mother. Steve Harvey and men like Steve Harvey who speak highly of their mothers like they can do no wrong, that's their experience with their mothers. Everybody's experience with their mother is not the same, okay? Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you two scenarios, and both these scenarios are men that I knew in my life, I grew up with, and why they can love a woman and have a relationship with a woman, but not have a relationship with their mothers. Example number one, you make me sick. You act just like your father. Here's a man that meets a woman and makes promises to this woman. They end up getting together. Maybe they got married, maybe they didn't, and they end up having a son. Somewhere in the relationship, something went wrong. In a lot of instances, he probably cheated on the mother or cheated on the woman. They break up. Now this man has gotten this woman in her head or in her feelings so bad that she can't function with her son simply because as her son is growing up, he's a constant reminder of his father. So he grows up and he's making mistakes just like every kid does. You make me sick. You act just like your father. He's getting older and now he's having fun, and now he likes this little girl, he likes that little girl, this little girl calling the house, that little girl calling the house. You make me sick. You just like your father. You don't be doing all this with these, running around with these different little girls, which is what most boys do anyway. I'm not condoning that behavior, but most boys do that. They have multiple young ladies that they're talking to at the same time. So now, as this boy grows older and older, he begins to get taller, he begins to get muscles, he's starting to look more like his father, he's starting to sound like his father because he went through puberty and his voice has changed, so now he sounds like his father, and every little thing he does, she comes down on him and she keeps saying the same thing. You make me sick, you just like your father. Now what happens as this young man grows up and he's trying to do right by his mother? He's helping her with her bills. He's helping her get her car fixed. He's helping her with this and he's helping her with that. And then every time something goes wrong, something he does, first thing she yells is, "You make me sick, you're just like your father." After a while, this young man is going to feel like, I can't do anything to escape what she's feeling or in her feelings about my father. I'm not my father. But she keeps ridiculing me. So no matter what he does, you make me sick, you just like your father. Everybody's got a breaking point. And at some point, he's going to break. And that breaking point may be that he just says, I can't be around this woman. Because no matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, no matter what happens, if it's not to her liking, she yells out, "You just like your father." After he moves out on his own and he sees, hey man, I can take care of myself, I'm good, he's going to go around her less and less and less. And what he doesn't want is if he meets a young lady and takes that young lady around his mother and she heard he did something or whatever, and then she yells out, "You just like your father," that's not going to be cool. The woman he's seeing, hearing his mother say that, could make that young lady think that there's something wrong with him. When in actuality, there's nothing wrong with him, it's his mother. But his mother can mess everything up for him. Not to mention, he's been listening to this all his life. There comes a point he's going to get tired of it. I had a friend who went through this same thing, and he went and seek counseling, and one of the counselors was actually in the church, and they gave him a Bible verse. And the Bible verse was Proverbs 21:19, and it reads, "It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman." It is better to dwell. What is the definition of dwell? To live. In the wilderness. What is the wilderness? You're talking wild animals that'll eat you alive, insects that'll eat you alive, go inside each orifices they can to eat you up, okay? Poisonous snakes. It is better to live in the wilderness where you can be destroyed by nature than with a contentious, definition of contentious, quarrelsome, argumentative, debative, and angry woman. The Bible is saying you better off living out there in the woods than living with a contentious and angry woman. So they gave him that Bible verse and he basically cut his mother loose. Now don't get me wrong, he does keep up with her, but he doesn't hang out with her because his mother constantly keeps comparing him to his father and he's nothing like him. Example number 2. His mother is on drugs. So I had this friend that I grew up with, and we met when we was probably about 10 years old. And somewhere around 12 years old, I ended up getting my room in the basement of my parents' house. And I began to notice that periodically he would come over to my house and would not want to go home. And it would get late and, I can't have company anymore. Even though my mother and father was upstairs, we were downstairs. I'd be like, dude, you got to go, man, because I can't have company after 9 o'clock. He's like, no, man, I'll be quiet. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just go home? So I knew that his mother would get high, but I didn't know the extent. So later on in life, we're like 25 years old. This was back when we was like 12, 13 years old. He would come over, sometimes we'd fall asleep and he'd sneak out in the morning and then go down to his house so my parents wouldn't know he was in there. So now we're older. So this is like 25, 26 years old. And this is when he actually brought it up to me. And he told me that his mother was on crack cocaine or heroin or whatever it was she was on. He didn't know exactly what it was, but she was getting high off of the, stuff you put in your veins. And what was happening was when she would start having them fits, sitting there shaking and scratching and doing stuff like that, he knew that she would get on the phone and try to cut a deal with the drug dealer. And what she was doing was she would tell the drug dealer, bring her an ounce or whatever it was, the crack or whatever it is that she wanted, and then she would let the drug dealer have her son for a half an hour or whatever. Basically, he was being raped by the drug dealer. This is how his mother was getting her fix. I was wondering why he didn't want to go home, and he never said anything to me or my parents or anything about it. He told me later on that he told his grandmother what was going on, and his grandmother took him from the house. And I remember him leaving, but he just said, I'm going to go live with my grandmother for a while. But he made like he was coming back, and he never came back. So if that wasn't bad enough, his grandmother passes away about 6 months after he moves with her. And I'm not even knowing this at the time. Then when his grandmother passed away, nobody in their family would take him. He told them he wasn't going back to his mother's house because he told them what was going on. So he ended up in the orphanage. Guess what happens to him in the orphanage? They sending him to foster homes and whatnot, and this same kid is getting raped in different foster homes. He reported, they wouldn't do anything to the people, they just moved him to another house. And they got tired of him reporting it because they thought he was making it up, to the point where they left him in the orphanage, and now he's fighting with all the other orphans and everything, and it was bad for him for like 6 years. He ran away at 17 years old, and he finished school, and he got out, and he said, man, he was living on the streets for about a year. He got a job as a waiter downtown, so he made enough money. And I remember that he got his apartment and everything. I'd gone to the military, and when I came back, and that's when he told me what was happening. So he tells me, hey, I know where my mother is, let's go. I'm sitting there and she's like, oh, how y'all doing? Oh, she all happy and everything. And you could still see she was kind of strung out. And he says, it's hard for me to forgive you for what you did to me. And, leaving me with the drug deal, giving me to the drug dealer and so on and so forth. And his mother said right in front of me, oh, Negro, please, that was 15 years ago, grow up. This is somebody's mother. I mean, unbelievable. She had no remorse or nothing. None whatsoever. He just got up and said, come on, man, let's go. And he does not have a relationship with his mother. He now is married and has been married now for 20 years. He has 3 kids and he watches them with an eagle eye. So ladies, listen to me. You gotta be careful of someone giving you advice about how a person can and cannot be if the situation that they're giving you is based on their experience alone. Everyone's experience is not the same. So if you talking to a guy and he seems like a nice guy and he has his stuff together, and you find out he does not have a relationship with his mother, you might want to ask him what happened first to see if he tells you. Because he may tell you that his mother wasn't okay. Just because you birthed a child, the same thing like they say about a father. All guys who make babies are not fathers. Well, it's the same thing with mothers too. All women who spit babies out of their vagina are not mothers. And I've seen a bunch of them, they ain't got no business having children. So I just wanted to leave you all with that because that's really important. If somebody had to tell you, and I'm your Uncle Raulh, and I love you. It might as well be me. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click that little bell for notifications when I drop another video.